What made you lose interest in a person you had a crush on? She littered. It was supposed to be a nice walk in the park. We got Subway and she threw the wrapper and napkins in a garden. I picked it up and threw it out myself after she called me weird and walked away. She took a cat she had adopted and allowed it to run away because it had become noisy at night. I knew she allowed him to run away because a day later he came back smelling of the outside and meowing at her door. I took him in, washed him in the bathroom, and she kept sarcastically saying, "That's your cat now." Yay, he is. And I still have him, and he's still annoying and loud, but I love him anyway. It's the ugliest sort of person who selfishly adopts a cat while depressed and then tries to rid themselves of this life they took responsibility for. I found her on Tinder while her fiance was deployed in the Navy. I was on a date with a girl. We were taking a little walk. The weather was quite cold, so she was wearing a big coat. She took her hands out of her pockets. Her hands were full of tissues, scraps of paper, candy wrappers, and she just dumped it all on the floor. We were a couple of meters away from a bin. I pretty much went straight home. We got into an argument during my freshman year while we were in the talking phase, and then she screamed at me in the hallway. She was a bad parent to her kids. He asked to borrow my hardback of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. That was my favorite of the series and I happily lended it to him. 6 months later he finally returned it. The dust jacket was torn. The corners were dented and the spine was broken. That book had been in pristine condition and I nearly cried that he took such little care of it. My 6th grade nether regions were turned to dust. Screw you, Trevor, you book ruining barbarian. She wasn't interested in me that way. Lack of interest from the other person is kind of a deal breaker for me. I noticed he was an attention seeker. I heard the same cool stories he told me when I first met him that drew me in again and again, and realized he was egotistical. Basically, if you say you've climbed a mountain he would interrupt to say he's climbed a bigger one that was more dangerous. He told me that he wanted me to sleep with other people and tell him about it, and that he stood on the edge of a bridge all night long debating on jumping because he didn't think he could make me happy enough. Finding out she had a boyfriend and a dude on the side, I realized she was mean. About 4 years ago, I moved in next door to a beautiful woman. She was fun, and we got along great. We started doing activities together. We hiked. We worked out. We watched movies. Then one day, we went to a fast food drive-thru, and she completely berated the workers for no good reason. I was mortified. Then as we were driving away she said, "They're the stupidest people. They never listen." Then I said, "You know they probably spit in your food, right?" She gave me a thanks a lot look. My crush ended that day. When I was in HS, there was a guy Charlie who was handsome and lots of girls had crushes on him, including me. If you didn't know him well, he seemed like a quiet, unassuming guy. We ended up joining the same extracurricular club. I was on the shy side in HS, so I didn't talk to him directly much other than for stuff regarding the club. Well, one day he was working on a club related project, and he was with some of the other guys in the club. They were talking as they worked. I was around the corner from them, working on something else by myself. They didn't know I was there, but I could hear every word they said. Long story short, one of the guys told Charlie that Ella, another member, had a crush on Charlie and wanted to go out with him. She wasn't the most gorgeous girl in school or the most popular, but she was very sweet and well liked. When Charlie found this out, he scoffed and said, "To think that I'd ever go on a date with someone like her. I'd definitely be dating down. She's nothing." He said it with such a nastiness and disdain that any appeal he had to me shriveled up immediately, and I never looked at him the same again. Listen, I get that he may not have been attracted to Ella and didn't want to date her, but there was no reason to be such a nasty peen about it. He could have just laughed it off and changed the subject, but he didn't. Maybe it was to impress his friends in some strange way, or maybe he really was that much of an asshole. I'll never know. Regardless, that spoke to his character, and not in a good way. Beautiful to look at, but boring to know. In 7th grade, I brought her a slice of cheesecake at lunch for Valentine's Day and she laughed at me in front of her friends and wouldn't even take it. I was socially awkward at the time, but damn, that fricked me up. when he and his friend told a 5-year-old to jump off a cliff. That was fricked up. He kept talking about other girls, as if I was supposed to compete for his interest and constantly have to prove myself. Too lazy to figure me out for yourself? I'm not good enough for you? Cool. Bye. Your loss. I got a promotion at work. He got butthurt and then stabbed me in the back. He was given a part of the promotion that I was given. Not even half of the responsibilities. When I realized that he was a weasel, but also not good at being a weasel, he wasn't sexy anymore. Declaring my interest for him, I simply told to my crush, my best friend at the time, we were 14, 15, that I had feelings for him. He is straight, but received that quite well. Of course, saying that the feelings weren't mutual, it really didn't affect the friendship, to be honest. Simply telling him kinda made me get over that. I found out she couldn't handle any sort of stress or pressure at all and would just give up. Left basically everything she touched half finished. Played hard to get. Turned out to be an anti-vaxxer. I saw someone's crush on me leave their body, so I'm going to tell that. It was the end of the 4th grade and this girl was being very playful and chasing me around the past few days. She wrote her number in my yearbook and wrote call me anytime, so that's when I say I lost my virginity. But we had a class party because it was the last day and I had to clean up the bowls of snack food. I didn't want to throw the food away, so I came up with the idea of stuffing my pockets full of the pretzels and Cheez-Its. My friend thought it was genius and did it too, so we celebrated how smart we are. Around this time the girl came around and asked what we were so happy about, and I showed her my pocket full of snacks. She recoiled and said it was weird. She also said something like, "I can't believe I chased you," and walked away. We said probably like 4 words to each other after that, including high school. She called me autistic and ghosted me. Met him in college. Thought he was funny and cute, so I invited him out for drinks. All he'd talk about were his wasted escapades, which are fine to have, but had some other interests too. We are still friends, and I still kind of like him, but the crush went way down after that. He told me on the first date, "You have such a witty sense of humor for a girl." He blew up at our waitress for absolutely no reason other than his having a bad day. Idiot. She brought another dude on our date. I got the message loud and clear. She was getting a master's degree and she mentioned casually one time that she was paying people to write her papers for her. Didn't seem fazed by it at all. I worked my ass off to get my master's. So hearing someone thinking nothing of just paying people to basically get it for her really lowered my opinion of her. He told me in front of our entire 9th grade classroom, "Haha, it's not like anyone's ever going to want to marry you." For some reason this was in geography class and we were talking about child brides and the teacher awkwardly used the 2 of us as an example. Hence the response, "I'm engaged now." So not to him, though. When she flat out told me the races should remain separate and only bad things happen when genetics are not kept pure, I think she may have been too inbred to even comprehend the argument. Had another that behaved like an MLM. Kind of pay to play, apparently. She was accustomed to being plied with gifts. Then, there was one time I saw a crush at a bar in my 20s. She came over and was super friendly. She got pretty busy when she flat out asked me to pay for her drink, and I said no. She walked over with that drink and expected me to pay her bar tab, which, in my mind, is very different from me offering to buy her a drink. Any crushing I had on her died right then. She would try to behave depressed for attention. She just turned into a bad person, bullying kids and stuff. 3 years ago she had such a bubbly and genuine attitude, always enthusiastic for things, mixed with the wrong people, and destroyed her character. Bad money management. Not into someone who'll eventually expect me to help them pay off several credit cards. Low-key racism. You can be hanging out like, whoa, this person is great. Then they casually say something about the minority walking by, and I'm like, oh no. Okay, see you later. I showed him my holographic Squirtle notebook, and then shortly after it mysteriously vanished from my cubby and he wouldn't look me in the eye. I asked him about it. "I know what you did, Joe." Yelled at me for accidentally dumping soup on him when he was crowded way too close behind me in the lunch line, and I turned around. First and last crush. Have never felt one since. Like my brain decided at 11 this crap isn't worth it, and turned that part off. Heard him laughing about his multiple DUIs. She was crapping on a student who was very clearly mentally handicapped. He was a really hard worker and was quite nice. We were already all 21, and I was honestly very appalled. When I realized I was the only one trying to maintain the friendship. Yes, I had a crush on him, and he knew, and made me think there was something there between us when there never was. We had a 2-week thing when we were 18 that didn't progress beyond kissing and hanging out listening to music and talking. He would always answer his phone when I called. He didn't have to. He could have ignored me, but chose not to. But eventually I got to the point where I was tired of putting effort into a friendship. Any romance prospects at this point had long gone, and we were both in relationships, but I still thought we were friends. I said to myself that I wasn't going to call or text him anymore. If he wanted to speak to me, then he knew where to find me. That was 18 years ago. He's never bothered. He seemingly dropped off the face of the earth. No social media, no anything. So even if I wanted to track him down, I wouldn't know where to start. I hope he's okay and happy, wherever he is. Just as things were picking up, she started showing maniacal signs, crazy controlling with terrible mood swings. He lost interest in me. After getting to know him a little bit, I found out he wanted a modern version of a 1950s housewife. We got on the topic of kids for whatever reason. He said he accepted his future wife to do all the childcare and all the housework and all the cooking. She was homophobic, bisexual, and heard I had a small crush on her, female, and she tried making the whole class turn against me. Everyone ganged up on her and she ended up moving school. I realized she had zero ambition whatsoever, no interest in getting a job after uni because looking stressed her out. Life has a lot more stressful situations than just looking for a job in your early 20s. Table manners. You might spend years across the table from someone chewing like the sounds of someone marching through mud. The fact that he used Internet Explorer. I found out the way he treated the multiple women he was talking to. He would dog on and make fun of them to impress the other, to imply that he wasn't interested and they were the only one he was talking to. Anyone who didn't like me, I lost interest in. Never chase people who don't chase you back. He started listening to Glenn Beck's radio show and referred to Beck as one of the few people who really gets it. Found out he kills his pets when he gets bored. Based on everything else I learned later, I'm guessing he was a sociopath/psychopath. Followed him on Instagram and saw that he was posting racist and sexist stuff. Unfollowed. Blocked. Never talked to him again. He was acting like a jerk. I heard him call someone the N-word. He's white and the D slur, so that was it for me. Found out she was an anti-vaxxer. The hot-o-meter went from 100 to 0 in about 2.4. Played those mental games with me, where I had to guess what she means/wants. I much prefer people to be very blunt with me. This guy was cute as hell and everyone had a crush on him. Then I found out he sexually assaulted a girl 3 years younger than us and told everyone she had an STD. No thanks. That's a pretty big red flag. Had a crush on a dude my freshman year of college, but he had a girlfriend in high school. However, he continuously flirted with me all the time and I just went with it. Then one day his girlfriend came to visit and she wrote whore on my whiteboard on my door. Still have no idea what the hell this guy told his girlfriend about me, so I ignored him after that. He made fun of my anxiety. It was a weird one, because I just realized that I wasn't visually attracted to her. She had the best personality ever. She deserves someone who appreciates her and wish her the best of luck. I'm generally considered liberal. She too was quite liberal. She argued passionately and arrogantly that farmers ought to be forced to change their crops to reduce their carbon footprint. That's not how that freaking works. She posted a South American crisis death count infographic, incorrect, on the anniversary of 9/11. What an edgelord. God, she was hot. But just, no. Smelled terrible. that's an immediate no for me. To some extent, it's usually just because I realize I don't have a chance in hell. There was the one time a girl I had a crush on who had no intention of reciprocating, took massive advantage of it in me. After I realized I had no chance, I just kinda said frick it. When my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I told her I just wanted to be friends for a while, because I wasn't emotionally in a spot to build a new romantic relationship with anyone, and she called me a bunch of names, and made it all about her, made me wish I would have just ghosted her. But I don't have it in me to do that to anyone. A face she made. We work in a vet clinic. I was holding a dog that was definitely scared and a known fear biter. I just had him on a leash and he was as far away from me as the leash would allow. I get that. I wasn't going to pressure him. I was just waiting patiently for him to either trust me enough to get his catheter out or waiting for his mom to come so that she could hold him while I got the catheter out and him bandaged up. Enter my crush, the receptionist. She is gushing about how cute he is. Fact. He was adorable. 80 pounds of fluffy GSD and pit cross. She kept being somewhat pushy and trying to get him to sniff/lick her hand so she could pet him. I warned her off, but she wasn't taking the hint. She then tried to get close to remove the catheter. The dog definitely does not like this, and I could see his eyes getting that crazy look. She was making him feel tapped, and with a fear biter, that's about the worst thing you can do. I warned her again, because I did not want to see her get bit, as she was definitely setting herself up for that. Finally, a head tech walks by and lightly scolds her for pushing the dog's boundaries and putting her and myself in danger. She finally listened to the tech, but after the tech turned to walk away, Crush Girl shoots this miserable, pouty, and hateful look of daggers at the head tech's back, all while still crowding this obviously uncomfortable dog. Crush instantly ended. I'm not all about listening to authority 100% of the time, but if someone with 30+ years of experience tells you you're about to get your face chomped by a dog, just listen. I promise the boss isn't being unfair on this one. I also hate disrespectful attitudes, especially if you don't have the cajones to do it to his/her face. Yuck. My bisexual friend liked a girl until he found out that she's homophobic. I became aware of their crappy actions and personality. Took a long time, but fortunately I was only partially affected by their actions. I realized every time we spent time together I ended up feeling bad about myself. She was pretty shallow. A hot bod is great and all, but honey, get some personality. I went over to his apartment to hang out for maybe the third or fourth date. I knew he had a little doggo and was excited to meet him. Well, this dog was not trained at all. He jumped all over me and would not stop licking me. At first it wasn't a big deal, because I know some dogs get real excited to meet new people, but literally the entire 2-3 hours I was over, the dog was jumping on me every minute or so, which left some scratches and was just annoying, and licking my feet and face. The guy would just say, "Hey, get off," or push him away, and that was it. I also had to sit on the edge of this absolutely destroyed lover seat, because I guess the dog loves to rip and chew up anything it can, and the guy didn't want to get a new couch because it would just get ruined too. And I'm not talking like, oh there's a hole or two and some ribs in the leather. I'm talking half the couch was a crater with foam and crap just in pieces, and you literally couldn't sit on most of the seat because it didn't exist. I just couldn't believe that he allowed the dog to be so destructive and out of control. Not to mention he thought it was fine to let him jump on me and get in my face and all over me every few minutes for hours. He did mention that he can't really crate him because he howls or whatever it was, but I just can't picture letting a guest in my house deal with that and think it's all fine and good. I also felt so bad for the dog because he obviously needed some sort of training, more exercise to burn off steam, and who knows what else. I've never owned a dog. I got turned off by how irresponsible the whole situation was. He don't like Shrek. We were walking happily down the street after a night of boning and other fun. Hand in hand, a black lady bumped into her and she ran into a nearby store yelling about how she had to wash the black off before it tainted her pure white skin. I ghosted her while she was inside. This was before cell phones were common, so it was a clean getaway. Turned out to be dumber than a box of particularly stupid hammers, and convinced herself she was a genius. She died. From what I could see, he was the type to not take anything seriously. He was also awkward as frick. Years ago, I went on a first date with a man I had a crush on. We went to the movies, and when it was finished, he placed all the wrappers from his snacks on the seat, instead of throwing them in the trash can on our way out. I asked him about this, and he said he earned the right to do that because of the high cost of the ticket. I lost interest immediately. That time she invited me out to this area where teenagers are known to score, only to have her boyfriend and 4 of his friends beat the crap out of me. Very political. Talks way too much about politics that it's just becoming annoying. Argues with me when I don't have anything to say or disagreeing with him. So tiring. It's not that I don't know about politics. I just choose not to talk about it as it kind of stresses me out. She knew I liked her and used that information to sleep with me. Turns out she was trying to inflate her number. I'm not complaining. In 3rd grade I overheard my crush say oh my god, and I was never allowed to take the Lord's name in vain. Little indoctrinated me came to the conclusion that she was a bad person and stopped liking her. I had a crush on this one boy in my class back in elementary school. On Valentine's Day our class did the gifting thing. Everyone had to write their name on a piece of paper, and basically whose paper you get you have to buy them a gift. My crush got the paper with my name. He made a disgusted face and said something like, why her? He probably did it because everyone in our class shipped us, but I was pretty sad anyway. As soon as they weren't single anymore, it's like, when I know they're single, I really like them, but as soon as they get a GF, it's like my attractiveness goes from 100% to 10% real quick. Went to his house. He has a Confederate flag on the wall. Noped out of that real quick. I had a crush on a girl for like a month. Asked her for her number, she gave it to me, and we went out. Ever hear someone monologue for 2 hours about what an awesome person they are? Yup, non-stop. She was shocked I didn't call her back. She started tricking this other dude instead of me. Weren't alike at all. Only reason he thought I was coolies, because I'm a girl and I play video games. He laughingly told a story about how he had told some girls that they were fat. That was basically the whole story. He saw a couple of girls dressed up for a party and he just walked up and told them they were fat. I had just met this dude freshman year of college, and I thought he seemed kind of cute. But after that I avoided him like the plague. Who TF does that? He later married this girl who was all over him that whole year, despite the fact that it turns out he had a girlfriend at another school. They both sucked, so I guess they deserved each other. He thinks that COVID-19 is a democratic hoax. The moment I found out he was a narcissist and only wanted attention to feed his ego, I tried to get with this girl who was madly attractive, like a literal 10/10ths at that time, and would always play hard to get. She enjoyed the attention she got for her looks in public, but would always keep her distance. I was the only one she regularly went out with, but she always tried to hide any interest in me for some reason. I know this because sometimes she let some words slip. Someday she even told me how much her parents liked me for not being an unsuccessful loser like her ex. Yeah, we were at that point where she introduced me to her parents, but was still playing hard to get. Weird times. Then, one night when I was out partying with friends, she called me, and was probably also wasted/stoned, and asked if I could come over to her place now. She wants me there. The first time she took initiative in this, I knew what was going on, and was mad from being treated like a toy, especially because she knew I was hanging out with friends when she decided to call. So I just told her I can't drive. Some of my friends who were there with me even offered me a ride, but I refused. Somehow the attraction was just totally gone. That call killed it for me. My friends say I'm retarded to refuse a 10/10ths model, and at first I believed them, but in the long run I don't regret it. I won't let myself be treated like a toy, especially after I just got out of a crappy relationship not long before that. No matter how attractive that girl is, now that I've lost interest in her she regularly tries to hit me up, but I couldn't care less. No matter how good she looks. This greed for attention and confirmation just made me lose all attraction I had at once. The "you're not like other girls / all my exes were crazy bitches. Why do some men think being low-key sexist is the way to get a GF? He thought he was so cool for being super manly / macho, and it was so goddamn off-putting. He would brag to me how many women he'd fricked, as if I care, but then say how he hoped I hadn't gotten with anyone else. Like, dude, are you insane? He'd also just make low-key sexist jokes and then berate me when I called him out. He'd act as if I was overreacting. Hint, being a piece of crap will not win you dates. When she absolutely refused to ever text / call first. I understand sometimes, but I quickly grew tired of taking initiative every single time. It made her seem like she wasn't interested in me, and that made me lose interest. He claimed me while we were nowhere near a relationship. Got mad off when I didn't reply within 1 hour on WhatsApp. She seemed like she wanted to date, but never acted like she enjoyed my company. Was chatty Cathy with other people. She always wanted to go out, but I could barely get her to talk to me. Now she is dating some short old guy. Whatever, the math was too difficult with her. Multi-level marketing. She was in one scheme after another. Beautiful woman. But I couldn't get past her being dumb enough to continue with the pyramid schemes. I existed when convenient. Had a boyfriend who had this large breed purebred puppy who he just wasn't very nice to. I'm not a fan of dogs, I'm actually terrified of them, but I don't want animals to suffer, and I believe in treating your pets with dignity, which I didn't feel like he did. He left the dog in the back of his huge truck while barreling down the freeway. When I suggested he put her in the backseat, which is outside my comfort zone, BTW, he complained she would dirty up the seats, and she liked it out there. When he brought her to my place he would tie her to a pillar in my living room. I couldn't understand why. She seemed like a fairly obedient dog to me, especially considering she was a puppy. But I don't know much about owning a dog, so I sort of narrowed my eyes, but let it go. Then one day I saw him whack her on the nose for something that seemed, I don't know, not warranting a whack, and I was like, do you always hit her like that? Anyways, fast forward not much into the future. He calls me from the doctor saying he had to put her down because she bit him. Why did she bite you? Well, I caught her getting into the trash, and I was disciplining her, and she just attacked me. Oh my goodness. Are you alright? I had to get stitches in my hand, but I'm fine. She's not, though. You put her down because she bit you, because you hit her? If she attacked me, she will attack other people. She could even attack your daughter. I have a 5-year-old daughter. I'm terrified of dogs, and he knew this, so I could feel the manipulation in his voice. I couldn't even be sure if he was telling the truth, that he'd put her down, and he wasn't just saying he'd done that because he thought I'd want to hear that. I didn't. But she was a perfectly healthy puppy. Why didn't you just take her to the pound? She was a liability. She cold killed someone. I've never been more disgusted. Putting a puppy down for biting you after you've been an abusive prick to it is a low of all lows. Fortunately, I have a friend who worked in a vet for a long time who says that they never put down healthy dogs just because the owner says so. They just tell the owner they will and then take the dog to the pound. I really hope that's what happened. Making me wake up from a dream and realize that she is fictional. I had been talking to her for a while and opened up to her a lot about my depression. I odd one night and she was the first person I told, as I didn't know what to do. She then asked me for proof I had overdosed and didn't believe me when I said I was attached to an 4th drip and spent the night in hospital. Never spoke to her again. Her bullying a kid who is mentally challenged. Never looked at her that way again.